What is a chiropractor looking for that other doctors and specialists haven't found? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. And we're going to talk about the story of a chiropractor who used different methods for evaluation to identify and then correct the issue that she found to help this person to express life better. This is a really good episode for anyone who has struggled with neurological issues and not really found a great answer. My name's Jenna Quinton. I'm founder of Adjust Your Media, host of What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast. And once again, we're sharing a story, and I would love to have you share this to help inspire other families to help them find some answers. And go to the show notes because there are resources there for you. So today on What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate, I have Dr. Liz Morin, and she is in Key West, Florida. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, so as a chiropractor in practice, I'm sure you have lots of stories, but I'd love for you to share one. Who had their life improved under chiropractic care?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one for a while because I had to reschedule on you, so thanks for being patient. But
Absolutely.
the particular gentleman stuck in my mind and didn't change. We're going to talk about a fellow named Walter, and his story is actually really interesting. So I met this man about 1.5 years ago, and somehow the connection was made with someone they knew that chiropractic might help seizures.
Mm-hmm.
So an exam was done, of course, and I did my best. This person was very anxious, uncomfortable, very difficult to keep them still for scans and things like that. So I had to pull out multiple tools to, get an analysis and figure out what was going on with the upper cervical spine, most importantly, the atlas. And I did find a very large shift. We don't have any birth history on this person because this person was adopted. So all we knew was that this person was suffering terribly with horrible eczema rashes all the time and seizures, really high fevers that would turn into seizures, sometimes while he slept, sometimes while he was awake, just really scary, and no one knew what to do. And, been in the hospital and gone through all those routes. So I felt very confident and almost innately just said I knew exactly where to go, which happens a lot with chiropractors when they're in practice a while. And we performed the first adjustment. And I said, I'm not sure what to expect, but I want you to rest and stay hydrated. Well, now we're 1 year plus a few months after that first adjustment. This fellow still comes in every week with a smile. But since adjustment one, and this is not every time, but this person has not had one seizure. I think that's incredible. Myself, this profession still humbles me every day. And I'm keeping away the person's age because Walter is 3, but I thought with his name being Walter, it might be fun to make people wonder how old this person was.
Yeah.
He started right as he turned 2, and he had just been adopted. So we didn't know a whole lot about birth trauma, things like that, but we can put the
Mhm.
pieces together, and figure that out. Has not had one seizure. And
Wow.
his immune system is so much better. Other things are getting better. And he comes in with a smile and hops on the table. Sometimes he wants to see my associate. She's a lot of fun. She's really great with kids. And some days he's got to see me. So we just saw him this morning and I let him know I'm going to talk about him today. And he was really excited about that. And his life has just improved in so many ways because he now has a stable mother and he's under chiropractic care every single week, no questions asked.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love a lot of different parts of this. Going back to, like you said, the exam, and that he had been examined and had specialists trying to identify what the issue is. So, what's different about your view as a chiropractor from other specialists who are looking at this neurological issue?
Sure. Yes, so chiropractors are looking at the nerve system. So that's the brain, the spinal cord, the nerves. We're looking at it via the spine, and we will do scans on people to see where they're holding stress in their nerve system. And like I mentioned, this child was so miserable upon meeting him that I had to skip all that. And I
Mhm.
think what I grabbed was a fossa reading of the temperature of the neck on both sides, and that gave me enough confidence and data to go forward. But yes, typically people would receive x-rays too in the office, but he was only 2.
Yeah.
So there were things I had to change for him and for his age and for his condition because he was just scared, newly out of the
Yeah.
system and things. But the confidence was there, and I'm going to say we really nailed it with him. And it's different because we're not going to throw medicine at it. We're not going to throw him with a physical therapist, although that could be good, or occupational therapy, that could be great. But in Key West here, it's considered pretty rural. I'm in the city in this county, but like pediatric specialists are not for 150 miles. So what happens with kids if they're sick around here is they end up in the ER and they end up
Wow.
not really receiving what they need. So luckily, this woman who I happen to know anyway knew what I did for a living and trusted me already. So that was there
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love, like you said, the temperature readings. Why would one temperature reading be different from one on the other side? Explain that for us.
Right. So we're looking all the time for balance in chiropractic, symmetry in so many different ways, but different numbers on a thermometer mean stress and imbalance. And it's really quite that simple.
Yeah, I find that really fascinating because a lot of times, like even if you're just like, I am not a massage therapist, but if I am touching my child's skin and feeling that it's warm here, we know like, okay, do you have a fever or do you have inflammation? Is this sore? Is it inflamed? Like, you're looking at it with such a more specific
Right.
knowledge, but there are things that we know, like the body reacts with inflammation and heat a lot of times. And that is such a simple thing to be like, oh yeah, we could use this tool. I thought it was interesting too that you said he had eczema and other issues. So tell us about, like you said, the upper cervical, the brainstem. Why would other issues be cleared up with that adjustment?
Yeah, there's a lot happening with this child. And many kids who are in the foster system, they go through a lot of hellacious things and they have to follow certain guidelines that may not be likable by many holistic practitioners or parents. But the point is, the reading showed me he had stress in his upper cervical spine, likely from birth, but we don't know the birth. But all it showed us is that his body was under immense stress as a 2-year-old and that it couldn't
Hmm.
regulate itself. So that's why
Yeah.
this child was receiving or getting these unfortunate high fevers that led to seizures and just scared the mom and scared his team. And he had been in and out of different, facilities. The truth was that he needed to have his operating system checked. And
Yeah.
depending on who I'm talking to, if it's a mechanic, I'll talk about a vehicle and an engine. If it's an electrician, I'll talk about wires. With a mom who's, in love with this kid and wants the best for him, I was saying, well, the power that controls him, it's confused. And he's clearly had stressors that we can't name because we don't know. And his body can't regulate. So these fevers are not going to be low. They're going to be higher for him. He's not going to have much immune system. And just, he's one of the rare, not even rare, but not every child or adult gets better in one adjustment.
Yeah.
He's really truly one of my favorite stories, and I have many. And now she's really armed with information to help him with other problems down the line too, that she's clearing him up from things he's been through in the past. That makes sense.
Yes.
But his operating
Yes.
system was on overdrive in protective mode, sympathetic. His body was constantly thinking it was a need to run, and I educated mom to let her know that each adjustment will help calm things down and his body will do what it's meant to do. I don't know what it's going to do. We're not treating the seizure, but I found this big misalignment that was very easily felt. Even the mom could feel it, but
Wow.
we had the data to say, yes, this is where we go. This is the side, and let's start.
Yeah, I love that you're explaining that there can be stress and trauma because sometimes people would say, well, it's not wear and tear on a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a bulge disc or things like that. And so explaining that, but something that I want to highlight too, you mentioned birth trauma. So what would you say to a mom who had a baby where she does know the birth story?
Mhm.
What would you say, about checking any newborn, whatever the birth story?
Yeah, for sure. And of course, parents say, well, why would a child need that? They're a child. They don't have stress. They haven't had any accidents yet. But, being born itself, even uncomplicated births without interventions like C-section, forceps, vacuum, or things like that, even those can create trauma in a child's upper neck and spine because we start out in a nice warm place for hopefully up to 9 months. And then we're being pushed out naturally by the most amazing thing in the world, the human body. But oftentimes the doctor's hands are involved and there are vacuums and epidurals and there are C-sections, things like that. We don't know with him again, but every child I've ever seen that was C-section or had a cord on the neck, even if they were an easier birth, they have similar presentations. And even just this week, we have a new gal who said she pushed out her child in 3 pushes and he was a quick birth. This child's now experiencing facial tics and motor tics, and he's in here today for his exam. So even though he was a fast birth, that's still traumatic because, again, it's about balance and harmony. So if it's going too fast, it's not great. And if it's going too slow, it's not great. There is a happy medium, and that applies to all of the body functions as well. I was
Yeah.
going to say diarrhea versus constipation. You don't want either. You want the harmony in the middle and
Yeah.
bad balance and tone.
That is a great example. And yes, after having given birth 4 times, I can imagine like 3 pushes. That must have been tremendous pressure to, get a baby out in 3 pushes. It doesn't sound easier to me,
Yeah,
honestly.
I know. Of
It's always a lot. And I think about, how careful we are with a baby's neck after they're born, but then they just went
course.
through so much there. I love too that you talked about in examining this child that he was moving and a little anxious. And I love that you are sharing how parents don't have to worry about that. Like a great chiropractor is going to be able to adapt, whether they're wiggle wormy or
Yeah.
even if you have that approach with an adult who's anxious. What are some things that you say or do with an adult who's starting care and is pretty nervous?
Oh, yeah. I say, well, I want you to first make yourself at home. We're really big on that here. Our office does not look like a doctor's office at all. It looks
Yeah.
like a combination of a wood cabin and a spa. And so I say, I want you to put away any preconceived notions. I actually see a lot of other doctors, so I have to say that a lot. Please put away your medical mind. This is not that. This is completely different. We're checking your whole system, and that's the one thing you haven't done yet. So relax. I'm going to do a couple tests on you. They're non-invasive. We do x-ray almost all of our adults and children. And that, with digital these days, non-invasive, and it's way more invasive and dangerous to live your life with these subluxations in your spine that are taking away from your life's vitality and your body's function. So does that sound good? Do you want to get started? I've never had anybody say no to me. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. But we have a really good way of putting people at ease. I have a great team that helps with that hugely.
Yeah.
From the moment they call, they know exactly what to expect. So
Beautiful. I love too that, x-rays where I can't read an x-ray, but to be shown and be talked through and to say like, hey, yeah, I see. I can easily see where you're having some issues. I can imagine this would be contributing to some interference in your nervous system. And what a relief, when we think about medical tests or things when we're like, okay, we hope that they don't find anything, but we kind of also hope they find something. Like we gotta find an
right.
answer here. And so to
Right.
tell people that you can help them and that you can do it in a really specific way is amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing this story. I know that it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people. There's so many neurological issues happening that people don't realize can be actually identified and addressed. So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, well, I know you have a lot more stories, and we could keep going. I'm going to put some information in the show notes for people to be able to connect with you, to be able to find a great pediatric doctor, to be able to find a great family chiropractor. So check out the show notes and all of those things, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.